Hey everybody, Andy here with the Andy Show, and we're going to do something a little different today. This is not about stocks, it's not about dinar. Had some requests of people wanting to know some of my background and things like that. So I thought I'd just do a little quick story for you. Uh, to sum it up, I was not a great student. I hated school. Okay. Halfway through my sophomore year, we were moving yet again, and I decided that I didn't want to make friends, didn't want to do anything, so all I did was work. Yeah, part of my senior year, I had, of course, I went to school, but I had 4 jobs, fed cattle for almost an hour in the morning. I started at 5. At 6, from 6 to 8 in the morning, I washed dishes at a cafe, and that cafe is today just as good as it was more than 40 years ago. They've been in business over 50 years, and it's my aunt's business. Now my cousin is operating it, and it's called Pat's Cafe in Holdenville, Oklahoma. If you've never gone there and never had one of their burgers and fries, you are missing out. The absolute best burger in the world. And be sure and tell them I sent you if you ever have a reason to be in the city of Holdenville, which is probably pretty highly unlikely. But yeah, I did that from 6 to 8. Went to school. I had enough credits. I only had to do, it was a minimum, but I had to do 4 hours or 4 classes, and by lunchtime I was out of there. Went to work for J.C. Penney, and I think, let's see, I believe it was 1 to 5:30 or 12 to 5:30, and I would leave from there, go to what we called the Ice House. And if you've been in Holdenville for any length of time, you know what the Ice House is. It was a place where they drove up, you ran out, see what they wanted, ran back in and got it. So bait, so blocks of ice, so tackle, snacks, beer. Beer was probably the biggest seller, and beer and ice. And did that until midnight. And then on the weekends, I only worked J.C. Penney and the Ice House. Did Saturdays at J.C. Penney's from 9 to 5:30, and then went to the Ice House till I think it was 2 o'clock in the morning. And then on Sundays, I ran it from 6 to midnight. So I stayed busy. I avoided everything else. I avoided making any relationships or having any contact with people, pretty much, other than what I had was required to do my jobs. So yeah, stayed busy. Didn't want to be let down if something happened and they moved us again. So anyway, going to college was the furthest thing from my mind. I mean, nobody pushed me, nobody encouraged me to even go to college. I don't think I would have anyway. Years later to find out that, yeah, I was dyslexic. So that was a part of the problem with me, and school was just boring for me. And so no great background. I think in my early 30s, I decided, well, I probably should go back to school, and did that for a little while, and life just got too busy at that point, and I just couldn't, more of an excuse, but school was just not meant for me. So anyway, I didn't do a whole lot. In the late 80s, I talked to somebody, and somehow, I don't even remember exactly how I ended up doing it, but I started bounty hunting. And during this time, I got to meet a lot of people with the sheriff's office, and actually through law enforcement throughout the country. And during that time, I gained a lot of respect that I hadn't formerly had for the police back then, and seeing what they dealt with as I dealt with it as well, and the unexpected things that would happen. So I've always been a big defender of the police in most respects. I have zero respect that they're used as a tax revenue agent for the city, by writing useless and needless tickets all the time. But overall, I think the police are some fantastic people. And back when the internet was, I mean, the late 90s maybe, I started a website, and it soon became in the top 10 most visited sites on the internet at the time. And it was an homage to fallen police officers. And just time wise and my inability to get the site the way I wanted it and all that stuff back then, I just kind of let it go. And it always stayed on my mind about fallen police officers. And just every time you would hear a story, just break your heart. So I decided one day what I think I'm going to do is just write a book, and I'm going to share some of the fallen officers. And went back and forth, and you could literally write quite a few different kinds of books. So I had to figure out a way to hone it down into a certain category. So I finally decided that I would start with the first known police officer to fall in the line of duty and do it all the way through. That was in the 18th century, go all the way through the 19th century, through the 1800s, for every fallen officer known at the time, of course, and just compile all that and find out why they died, when they died, all that, and put it in a book. So I wrote End of Watch, and of course it says our fallen heroes 1791 through 1899, and I titled this End of Watch, the beginning, and then volume 1. My original intent was to create a series of books and follow through with this one. This took about I would say a year and a half, a little over a year and a half, to compile all the different officers, and where I could, back then cameras were not much of a thing, but where I could, I actually put pictures of the officers where I could find them. And so it's available on Amazon. The easiest way, if you just do End of Watch, you're going to have an issue trying to find it because of the movies and everything else that have been out. It's easiest just to put my name, Andy Woolard, and you'll see the book. And I'm not peddling this book to sell it because I don't make anything off of it, and I'll explain that in just a minute. But in the late 80s, I was bounty hunting and dealt with many different police officers. Some thinking that we were out there trying to take their jobs or want to be cops or whatever. Now, it was a job. It was an adrenaline-driven job. It was a challenge. It was, I used to say I became a professional liar because I had to con the con man. I mean, it became a challenge to see how many I could apprehend in one day. And I don't know that anybody else has ever, there's who would know, but I actually got 9 people in one day. We went out early, got a couple of them, and then I was at the office and I talked 5 of them into coming into the office. And in the later evening that day, we went out and actually found a couple of other ones. So I got 9 people in one day. That was never. There was never a day I came close to reaching that record after that. I think I got 5 in a day, and several days I'd get 2 to 3, but and not every day. You didn't get somebody every day, but you just had to do your homework. You had to do your research. You had to You had to pay off people that knew how to roam their areas and gather information. I had prostitutes on my payroll, so I mean it was these PI shows and things and that you see. There's some fact based things in some of those TV shows, and it was just a lot of fun. It was probably the most fun I ever actually had doing a job. It was by far the best job outside the one I have now. Easily the best job I ever had, and there's a lot of good stories. But during my bounty hunting career, that kind of pushed me even more into doing the book, because my appreciation for what they went through grew even stronger. Not to say that I had some dealings with some real jerks out there. Any profession you get into, there's going to be some bad apples. So all this stuff about the cops is such a horrendous disservice to not only that profession but to our country, because there are a lot of great guys out there and gals who do this for a living and do it for noble reasons, and they're not power hungry or anything else. There are some out there, and I dealt with a few over the years that I was doing my bounty hunting. But I bounty hunted for a few years and worked with several people throughout that short career, including Dwayne Chapman. What does he go? Oh gosh, we all know who Dwayne Chapman is. Can't even think of his show. I just went completely blank on it. But when he was in Dallas, and worked with him on a few cases, but primarily I did it myself and had different people helping me. And there was even one, back when Cops was a popular show and I'd watch it, and I was sitting there one night and told my wife, I said, man, this place, I think I've been in this area before. And it was Fort Worth police in a trailer park, and they were going through these trailers, and I just thought, just looked familiar to me. And they had said something about this guy. One of the cops had told another, I just saw so and so going here. He's wanted on a felony warrant. And I thought, man, that just looks so familiar. And they go into this trailer and they get him in. He's actually hiding in his shower. And when they threw the curtain back, and he threw up his arms and he's, don't shoot. It was the voice. It's unmistakable. Quite a bit of time before that, I had this little buddy of mine, and it's always better, even if they don't know what they're doing, how to do anything, say, hey, come with me if we find him, I'll give you a couple $100 or whatever, and they were always eager. It's always better to have somebody there with you if something did go wrong. So we pull up to that trailer, and that may be him under his car. Somebody's up, all you see are the legs sticking out. And so we get out, and I told him, I said, you'll go around the back side. So if he takes off, just get a hold of him, and I'll take it from there. Just if you can slow him down. And so we walked out and kind of looked under. This is my guy. And he didn't stop working. He's up under there and doing all kinds of stuff. And I kick his feet. Yeah. I said, so-and-so, you need to come on out. You got something to take care of. What? And I said, come on out. And so I didn't quite pull him. I was getting ready to pull him. So he starts sliding out. And he goes, what's going on? I said, do you know what's going on? You didn't show up for court. I said, it's time to go get this squared away. And he goes, oh, okay. So he's getting up, and as he's getting up, he's brushing off, and he's just brushing all the dirt and the grass and stuff off of him. I mean, he's got a pair of shorts about like that on him, just not wearing anything, but he was greasy, dirty, sweaty. And I thought, God, I didn't even want him in my car. But so he's brushing off. He's bent over, like brushing his legs off and stuff. And as he comes up and throws his arm back in my face, knocks me back. Of course, he's taking off running here. Well, I had glasses on. So I knocked my glasses, knocked stuff out of my pocket, my badge and stuff. And so I grabbed that real quick, and I run to my car. I had a sawed-off shotgun. And the kid that was with me takes off. So I grab my gun, and I go to the area where I saw him running off to. And they had run over into an empty field, this big empty field. And there was somewhere toward the middle of it, there was this big light pole. There was something else there. And as I'm coming up, this kid doesn't, I mean, he probably didn't weigh 100 pounds soaking wet. But he was after him. He's going to do what he was supposed to do. He wanted that couple $100. So, I point the shotgun, and I tell him to get down, do all this. Okay. So the more I talked to him, we got him in the car, got him off to jail and all this. And so sometime later, when I'm hearing it on Cops, and I heard that voice, it was enough that I cracked up, and I thought, man, I had the same dealings with this same guy. So anyway, it's a humor story. Got a lot of great stories. There's one building, the Frito-Lay headquarters in Plano, Texas, sits in 3 different counties. The building itself is in 3 different counties. So I called the sheriff's office, and I think I called Collin County Sheriff's Office. I don't remember, Collin or Dallas. And I'm explaining to them that the guy got away. He's in the building somewhere, and I needed some help getting him out. And they said, well, what county are you in? I said, what? I don't know. I think Collin County. And they said, well, what part of the building? So I had to kind of explain the area that I could tell where I was. And they said, well, that's Denton County. You'll have to call the Denton County Sheriff's Office. So it took a while. We got the guy. But there's just a lot of incredible stories. Bounty hunting, the part you see with Dog. Dog the Bounty Hunter. The show you see with him is beyond unrealistic because there's not enough money in it for everybody to make. If there weren't cameras following him around and somebody paying him for his footage, there is absolutely no way they could have more than 2. Sometimes on bigger cases, you could have 3 people. And there are many times where 3 people are needed. But yeah, overall, it's, by yourself. Where I made my most money, I could contact these people. If I could get a hold of them, I could talk them into walking into the bonding agency that I was working with and just have them in there, convince them that I was their best friend and I had all their interests at heart, and just, here, sit at my desk, let these people work. The front doors back in front of me back here, so they're sitting at my desk and filling out paperwork, and I said, I don't know what I did with your file. Let me run up here and see if I can find it real quick. And there's this little room with just a table and a phone. And so I call the warrant division for the sheriff's office in Dallas County and call the warrant officers. They actually became pretty good friends, and just say, I got da-da-da-da here. He's here at the office. And they were less than a mile up the road, and while they're filling out paperwork, I'd see, and if I was talking to him by then or her, most of the time it was a him, and I'd go, oh man, and I'd stand up and I'd scream, who called them? Who called? And the guy that's about to go to jail goes, what? What's going on? What's going on? I said, somebody here called the sheriff's department. They knew you hadn't shown up, and I didn't know I had to tell everybody in here that not to call the sheriff's department. What does that mean? What does it mean? Aren't you bonding me out? Are you kidding me, you jerk? But they they were doing all this thinking that I was going to let him stay out on bond. So it was just a ploy to keep him occupied while I was waiting on the sheriff's department. And I just had to play a part. It was fun to. It was kind of cruel, I guess. It took the heat off of me. By the time I got through explaining, they're right there, getting him to stand, putting the cuffs on him, and taking him out the door. And more than once, one of the warrant people would just look at me like, dude. And once they were gone, then the people that worked in the bonding agency that wrote the bonds and did all that, even the owner, would just crack up and say, how do you do that and keep a straight face? And I'm glad y'all didn't look over my way. I was laughing so hard. And, I would just, it got to where I was more dramatic as time went on. I mean, I could pull it off. It was fun to see how well I could pretend to be so offended and so angry with somebody there. And only one time did we put this big old boy. I mean, I'm 6'1", 2.5, and this guy made me look like a midget now. But I did the same thing with him, and the warrant officers go pick him up. They came in, and he ends up going to jail. The next day, there were 3 or 4 of us, different, me, the guy that worked with me, the guy that I originally started working with, he was there, and his partner were there at this bonding office. And this guy comes in. I said, uh-oh. They said, what? I said, that's the guy we just put in jail yesterday. He don't look happy. But he came at me. It took all 4 of us, the little room that I talked about, that I would go into where there was just a table file. Somehow us wrestling, we went through that door, and I mean, we ended up getting him under control, and he went right back to jail. And we had somebody in the bonding. There was always 5 or 6 people that worked for the bonding company itself. We were contracted, but there were several people that worked for the bonding company. And I'm sure, I don't know how many phone calls the police got, but they were there pretty quick. And we're fighting with this guy, 4 of us, and we couldn't hardly keep him under control. So yeah, it didn't always pan out perfectly. So we had some run-ins once in a great while. But yeah, man, the stories, I could just go on and on. I can point to different buildings, and the one time, and this is not going to make me sound great, but I actually chased a guy at Thanksgiving Square in downtown Dallas, and we went through this one building. If you ever look at a skyline, you'll see a building, a glass building, and it looks like it's got a stripe around it. One of the floors is a different color of glass, I guess. Anyway, somehow got to the roof of this building, and the guy's over by the edge, and he's telling me, don't come near me, don't come near me. And I don't remember what the charges were or anything else. I just remember it was a $100,000 bond, so this guy was worth $10,000 to me, and I was going to get him. And he tells me, don't you dare come closer, I'll jump. And I was thinking there's no way he was going to jump. He didn't mean he was going to jump. He was just trying to figure out a way, stall so he could get away from me. I said, dude, jump. I make the money either way, because whether you're dead or in jail, I'm going to get paid. And of course, I got him, but yeah, I thought, had I given it time to think, how bad I would have felt had he really jumped. But of course, my last one. This guy, I didn't know at the time, he was a manager of a Domino's pizza. And Anyway, I knew where he lived. He lived in an apartment complex, and I knew what kind of car he drove. So I'm going this way, and I'm going to turn in to the apartment complex, but I'm having to wait on a car coming in the opposite direction. So I'm sitting there waiting for that car to go by, and it's getting slower, and it goes to turn in. Wow, that's the guy I need. Whip in behind him, pull up, and I get out of my car real fast. He gets out of his car and he's headed over, and I still remember his name, David. He turns around and says, "Yeah." I said, "I'm with Ace. You didn't show up for court." He said, "What?" I said, "Hey, I don't know the story behind it, but you got to go get this squared away." Now, mind you, it's late at night. I don't remember how late. It could have been early in the morning. I said, "You got to go with me." He said, "And what if I don't?" Oh, crap. Not another fight. Okay. I said, "Well, one of us is going to get hurt." He starts telling me all this jiu-jitsu, black belt, da-da-da-da-da. I said, "Dude, I didn't say you was going to get hurt. I said one of us is going to get hurt." He found that so funny. He said, "Okay, man, okay." He said, "I got some movies I got to get back to Blockbuster. Can we stop by and drop them off?" "Sure, you're going to make it this easy on me. I'll do one for you." So, yeah, and I actually kept that guy out of jail. We got to talking on the way back to the bonding company, and it was just a complete oversight. He even had a lawyer and, proved everything to me. And I thought, I can't send this kid to, just probably 19, 20-year-old. And I thought, I'm not going to ruin his life. So we got that. We actually, and that's not the only time I didn't send somebody to jail. And they didn't always have to go back. And I would talk to the bond company and they'd stay good on the bond. And we'd just get a redate, a new court date schedule, stuff like that. But I mean, there were all kinds of stories, but for the most part, yeah, it was just fun. It was just fun. And yeah, my job was to get them put back in jail. And I have a ton. I could bore you to sleep so easily telling you some of the stories. But anyway, that's one of the things that I used to do. Then I later wrote this book. And I'm only sharing this just to give you an idea of some of the things I've done in my past. And this is one of them. Like I said, I don't get paid. I guess I do get paid, but the money, I don't keep any of the money from it. I watched some videos. There was something that popped up on my Facebook one time a year and a half or two ago. And this kid runs a mile for fallen police officers. He started with, I think it was Tunnel to Towers, Stephen Siller Foundation, I believe. And he was running an event with them. And at 9, 10 years old, he decided he would start running for fallen officers and firefighters. So I watched a few more of the videos, and I thought, this is pretty cool. He runs with a flag, and then he takes and folds that flag up, sends it to the family of the fallen. And sometimes he goes and visits them. And now he gives grants to officers that are hurt and can't work. His organization now gives grants to those people. And I really love for you to go check him out. I'll put a link in the description. I'll put a link to the Amazon to buy the book as well. But if you choose to do that, like I said, I'm not pushing that, giving you a little bit of history. But this kid is just a phenomenal inspiration to others. So originally I wrote him, said, "Hey, I'd love to send this book to you. Get me an address that I can send it to." I sent him a copy of the book, and he did a whole video about my book and thanking me, which was awesome. But I had told him at that time, I'm going to give you $2 for every book. I didn't even know how much I make off of a book. And I said, but $2 off every book that I sell from now on is going to go to your organization. I thought, why $2? I don't even know if I make $2. I don't know if I make $5. I think I make somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 to $8 a book. I still don't know. I don't care. It's never been a bestseller by any stretch, so I haven't ever made that much. But I thought with him promoting it, I don't have to have the money. I don't need the money. So I shot them a message that, scratch the $2 a book. Whatever check I get, I'm just going to sign it and send it off to you. Now, one thing you got to keep in mind is this book was done in 2000. I think it was published in 2010. So it's been around a while. And I got one initial royalty check for a little bit, and then I hadn't seen anything. I thought, it's not selling. I wasn't promoting it. I did it to do it. I wasn't doing it for the income. So, but I haven't received a check, and I couldn't tell you when. And I know, well, I say I know, but people responding to that video were stating that they had bought it. Thanks for sharing, and they got a copy of the book. Da 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 da. I still haven't seen a check, so I'm thinking this kid's probably sitting over here thinking, well, no, I'm sure he's consumed with a lot more. Probably hadn't even given it a second thought, but you can imagine him thinking, well, he said he was going to give something from his book sales, and I haven't gotten anything, So I hope that he sees this and realizes I haven't received a check. And then I got to thinking, well, I moved. I bought the home that we're in now just about 3 years ago, and I never told them I moved. So I don't know if checks had been going to the old address where we had been for almost 20 years. So I've tried to get a hold of the company to update my address. I've sent them emails. Nobody responds. So I don't know what's going on with that. So I sent an email stating where I wanted the check and the name of and all of that. So yeah, whether he's gotten a check or not, I don't know. I would like to hope he has, but I don't tend to bother people too much, and unless there's an issue. So hopefully I'll be in touch with him here before too long, and I'll find out, hey, are you getting any of the residuals from my book? So, and then I can get to the bottom of it. And just doing this video reminds me I need to try to reach out to him yet again, because it's been quite a while since I have tried to get them to straighten out the address and everything. So everything, if you do buy the book, just know that all the money is going to his. It's running, the number 4 heroes, runningforheroes.org.com. Anyway, I'll put that in the description. I'll have to look it up when I post the video. But a great, great charity that this kid does. What an inspiration he is to so many. But that's a little something about me. I could tell you stories all day long. Most of them are pretty boring. There's just not a lot to know about me. I have had a few jobs in my past. Currently, I work for a multinational, multi-level marketing agency. I am a fraud analyst, and that's pretty much all I do all day is hunt for the thieves and the fraud. And I think my history with this and being a PI was what landed me this job. It's the greatest job I've ever had. Wonderful people to work with. And I thought when the business grew enough, or various things happened, that I would leave that job, and I just hadn't been able to walk away from it yet. And probably the time I would leave is if the dinar does revalue, and of course I won't be doing anything. I don't even know how many more videos I'll do. I'll be so busy living life and taking care of Woolard Enterprises. I certainly am not going to entertain having another job or staying at my job. But that's a little about me. Thought you might be interested. I do get questions asking me to let people know my background and my history as far as being able to run this business. I have an entrepreneurial spirit, I guess, and I've tried a number of things without having the funding to support, and I can go into those at some other time. But Just always wanted to do my own thing. And with the job I'm at now, I kind of have that ability. Nobody is looking over my shoulder. I produce, and that's really all they're looking for. So they leave me alone, let me do my job. And I think that's one of the things I love about it. I'm not filling out reports to them constantly so they can micromanage. That's one thing I can't take. So that's a little about me. I may give you a little more. Years ago, I did live in Hawaii, and wow, that's a story. And a lot of people just shake their head at it, but yeah, I had a really wild time when I lived in Hawaii, and I'll have to tell you that story some other time. But for now, just wanted to give you a little bit of my history, and I will talk to you soon. God bless you, everybody, and we'll talk again soon.